The sanctuary is quieter than usual today. The microphones that once carried a thunder of praise now stand still, and the stage lights that once illuminated a man who led millions into worship seem dimmer. Outside, crowds gather not just to mourn, but to remember. Today, the world says goodbye to gospel legend Ron Kenoly, a voice that didn't just sing songs, but ignited faith across continents. And as his casket is carried into the church, a question lingers in every heart. How do you say farewell to a man whose music never truly fades? For decades, Ron Kenoly wasn't just a name in gospel music. He was a movement. From the first note he ever sang in a small church setting to the massive worship arenas filled with thousands of believers lifting their hands, his mission was always the same: to glorify God and bring people closer to Him through praise. His voice had a rare power, not just technically impressive, but spiritually magnetic. When he sang, it felt less like a performance and more like an invitation to hope, to healing, and to joy. Born with a passion that seemed heaven-sent, Kenoly's journey to becoming one of gospel's most beloved figures wasn't without challenges. He navigated the music industry at a time when gospel artists had to work twice as hard to gain mainstream recognition. But Ron Kenoly never chased fame. He chased purpose. And in doing so, fame found him anyway. His live worship albums became staples in churches around the world, transcending cultural and generational barriers. Congregations from different nations, speaking different languages, found unity in the anthems he led. What made Ron Kenoly extraordinary wasn't just his vocal range or stage presence. It was his heart. Behind the powerful crescendos and energetic praise breaks was a man deeply committed to faith, family, and mentorship. Many young worship leaders today credit him as a spiritual father, someone who showed them that worship was more than music, it was a lifestyle. He believed in excellence, but he also believed in authenticity. He taught that true worship didn't start with instruments, it started with surrender. As news of his passing spread, tributes poured in from fellow artists, pastors, and fans who felt personally touched by his ministry. Social media timelines filled with clips of his most iconic performances, heartfelt testimonies, and words of gratitude. Some shared stories of how his music carried them through grief. Others remembered how his joyful praise songs turned ordinary Sundays into unforgettable encounters with God. It became clear that Ron Kenoly's legacy wasn't measured in awards or album sales, but in transformed lives. Today's funeral service reflects the very essence of who he was. It is not a somber goodbye steeped only in sorrow. It is a celebration of a life poured out in service. Choirs rehearse the very songs he once led, their harmonies trembling with emotion. Pastors prepare to speak not just about a musician, but about a faithful servant. Family members gather strength from one another, holding on to memories that will forever echo in their hearts. Quiet moments at home, shared laughter, private prayers that the world never saw. There is something deeply symbolic about laying a worship leader to rest. A man who spent his life lifting others up is now being lifted in honor. And while tears fall freely, there is also a profound sense of gratitude. Because Ron Kenoly taught his audience something powerful about faith, that even in loss, there is hope. Even in goodbye, there is promise. Many remember his electrifying stage presence, the way he would encourage the crowd to clap louder, sing stronger, believe deeper. But those closest to him remember something even more precious: his humility. Despite international acclaim, he remained approachable, grounded, and devoted to his calling. He didn't see himself as a star, he saw himself as a servant. And perhaps that is why his impact feels so personal to so many. As the service unfolds, stories continue to reveal the depth of his influence. Missionaries speak of how his music reached remote villages. Worship teams recall studying his recordings to learn how to lead with passion and precision. Families share how his songs became the soundtrack of their most sacred moments: weddings, baptisms, Sunday mornings filled with gratitude. In countless homes, his voice was more than background music. It was part of their spiritual journey. And yet, even in this solemn moment, there is an unmistakable undercurrent of celebration. Because Ron Kenoly's message was always one of victory. He sang about triumph in the face of trials, about joy breaking through darkness. Those themes resonate strongly today. While his physical presence is no longer with us, the sound of his ministry continues to echo. Every time one of his songs is played, every time a congregation sings lyrics he once led, his legacy lives on. For the family he leaves behind, this day carries a weight that words can scarcely describe. They have shared him with the world for years, watching as he poured himself into ministry. Now, they must navigate life without his daily presence. But they also carry the comfort of knowing that his life's work mattered, that his faith was genuine, that his influence will ripple forward for generations to come. As the final prayer is spoken and the last hymn fades, there is a moment of stillness, a collective pause. It feels as though the world is catching its breath. Then, softly at first, someone begins to sing one of his beloved praise choruses. Others join in. Voices rise, tears fall, hands lift, just as he would have wanted. In that moment, grief and gratitude intertwine. Ron Kenoly may be laid to rest today, but the spirit of worship he championed cannot be buried. It lives in every church that chooses joy over despair, in every believer who lifts their voice in faith. His story reminds us that a life devoted to purpose leaves footprints that time cannot erase. And so, as we close this chapter, we don't just remember a gospel legend. We remember a servant, a mentor, a husband, a father, and a friend. We remember a man whose music turned gatherings into sacred encounters. We remember the power of praise to carry us through life's darkest valleys. Today, heaven gains a worship leader. And here on earth, we hold on to the melodies he left behind, melodies that will continue to inspire, uplift, and remind us that true worship never dies.